Smackdown gave us a lot of hints and updates to coming storylines, so we'll check out what's going on with Sasha Banks and Naomi, Roman versus Brock, Vince McMahon's new story, and much more. Let's start things off with the rumored Vince McMahon storyline. Vince McMahon has been a part of a Raw storyline with Austin Theory over the last few months on Raw. However, that story seems to have fizzled out and didn't really give us any real solid payoff, which again, you sort of come to expect with some stories. It's always going to start strong and then leave us pretty much hanging, just looking for answers and looking for a payoff. The Vince McMahon and Austin Theory storyline looked like it was going somewhere, but that turned out to be false. But according to reports, Vince McMahon is not only entering a new storyline, he's rumored to be getting back into the ring at Wrestlemania. This year's Wrestlemania season has been full of bizarre names returning to the ring that we never thought we'd hear again, such as Stone Cold Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, and now a 76-year-old Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon last had a WrestleMania match in 2010 against Bret Hart. He did have a match with CM Punk on Raw in 2012 and took a few bumps from Kevin Owens in 2017. So the chairman has been active here and there over the last decade in his 60s and now mid-70s. But no one thought we'd ever see another full match from Vince McMahon, but that apparently is what the rumor is. Vince McMahon will be taking part in a live interview with Pat. This is Vince's first live interview since 2014, and apparently this interview could be used as a jumpstart for this WrestleMania program of Vince versus Pat. It sounds bizarre, it sounds pretty unbelievable, but apparently this is the actual rumor. Vince versus Pat. Pat had a few great matches in NXT before becoming one of the faces of SmackDown commentary team. But if this report is true, Pat is making a return to the ring to face the chairman of the board. Vince McMahon is known for taking a few unbelievable bumps in his 70s. But everyone is intrigued to see how a full match would work with Vince McMahon in this current state and age. Some fans were discussing that maybe Vince McMahon finds someone to fight Pat on his behalf. And that's an interesting idea because that's how you could potentially tie Austin Theory back into everything and pay that story off as well. Maybe Austin Theory interferes, fights on behalf of Vince McMahon, and makes Vince proud of defending him and defeating Pat for him. That's a decent way right there to pay off that entire Vince McMahon and Austin Theory storyline. Austin sticks up for Vince McMahon and defends him on the biggest show of the year. That's something that would get him major points with Vince McMahon and tie everything back together. So that's one idea. But according to reports, no, it's Vince McMahon that will be getting into the ring with Pat. So again, it's just crazy to hear about. But there's an actual chance we see Vince McMahon back in the ring nearing 80 years old. So it'll be very interesting to see how that all unfolds and if that truly is their plans. Another moment from SmackDown that's getting mixed reactions is the reunion between Sasha Banks and Naomi. Now, of course, it's great to see these former Team Bad members reunite. But the sort of bad part about it is that everyone expected both Naomi and Sasha to have bigger roles heading into WrestleMania. For Sasha Banks, everyone expected her to have a big singles match, maybe against a legend, maybe against Bayley, just anyone like that, for her to pick up this big first singles win, but that's not happening. For Naomi, the situation is actually a bit more frustrating. Naomi has been in this storyline with Sonya Deville for what seems like forever. But it appears that WWE is moving on from that Naomi versus Sonya feud without any proper payoff, which again, as a viewer that puts time into storylines, is very frustrating. We've invested all this time into Naomi versus Sonya Deville. It was one of the longest ongoing programs that everyone started assuming that WWE must have this major, insane endgame and payoff for the feud. Like we were just discussing the other day, maybe like a job versus job match at WrestleMania between Naomi and Sonya. That would have been a satisfying payoff for the near 8 months of time that fans invested into this storyline. But what's the big payoff that WWE decides to go with? They pretend that the Naomi and Sonya feud never happened, move on from it, and randomly put Sasha and Naomi back together. So again, you can see the big difference in the expectations compared to what we actually ended up getting. And it's something that we're continuing to see time and time again, and it's starting to happen so frequently. Stories start off great, looks like it's heading somewhere big towards the middle of it, and it completely flatlines towards the end of it when it's time for a big payoff. Why does this keep happening? No one really knows, but it would appear that WWE starts storylines without really having a clear idea of what the end game is. That's the equivalent of writing a book or a movie script without having a proper ending for your story in mind beforehand. And that's exactly what WWE storylines have started to feel like recently. It's like someone is starting to write a book and has a great concept, but doesn't have that ending planned, so somewhere along the middle, they just abandon the story. And that's exactly what WWE continues to do time and time again. So yeah, maybe it's time to start seriously relaxing our expectations for storyline payoffs, because it appears that WWE's weakness when it comes to storytelling is following through, committing to a story, and actually paying it off. It's extremely rare to get that from WWE storylines nowadays. They'll hype you up with a great start and a great middle, but then they'll never really give you that satisfying ending. Like we've seen with the WWE Hacker, Alexa and Bray, Naomi and Sonya, Retribution, and so on. But on the bright side, it would appear that Sasha and Naomi will be challenging Zelina Vega and Carmella for the women's titles at Wrestlemania. And Sasha and Naomi should no doubt win that match and become tag team champions. Sasha is still winless at WrestleMania after 6 appearances. So this should no doubt be that first WrestleMania win for her, and she'll be picking up a championship at the same time with Naomi. So that's the good part, but again, it's just unfortunate that they abandoned Naomi versus Sonya Deville after so many months of that story. Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns also had their contract signing for their WrestleMania main event match. WWE also answered a popular question that the fans had about the outcome of this match. They officially announced that this would be a title unification match, meaning that the winner of this match will only be carrying around one world title after WrestleMania. So it'll be similar to what we saw back in 2014, where WWE combined both world titles into just one actual championship. So same idea here. Will they be introducing a new unified title or bringing back an old one? No one knows, but the easiest thing for them to do would be to retire the Universal title and let the winner hold on to the WWE Championship. The Universal title came into existence in 2016. The WWE title came into existence with the infancy of WWE. It's quite clear which title has more history and deserves to stick around. So assuming they just retire the Universal title and have the original WWE title serve as a unified championship is also a very safe guess for now. But they have the contract signing. Brock says he's going to get his hands on Roman and Heyman. Roman goes off on a passionate rant about how everything in WWE belongs to him, and Brock takes out the security guards. There's still a handful of weeks before WrestleMania, so it'll be interesting to see what the other segments they come up with to keep this story going strong. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.